We're joined today on the bridge by The Sea, the new album, Stumbling Home. While you're at it, you might want to check out their Patreon page. Chuck and Mira Costa, The Sea. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having us, John.
Yeah, it's really nice to get a chance to talk to you. It's I think the first question everybody has when it's like a male-female duo is, what's your relationship status? And you all are seemingly quite happily married. You're both smiling.
Yeah. Yes. We got married about, 4 years ago.
It was like 4 years, right, when you released the album, right?
To the day.
Yeah.
Like the 4th anniversary is release a CD together. It's like
we don't have kids yet, so this is what we do.
Yeah.
Your kid, I guess, is maybe a good way of looking at it. So, the Sea, such an unusual name, but it feels almost like the name of the album and the name of the band sort of coexist pretty comfortably.
Yeah, the name that we take it from A Cry of Joy. So the name is an exaltation, which feels like what music and playing music is for us in the world. But it took us a little while. We sort of explored the different origins of that name.
Well, there's an Iris Murdoch novel with that title, and it's a great story, but it's super dark. And I always thought that'd be a cool band name, but we're too nerdy to have a band name that doesn't really fit in terms of our vibe and everything. So we kind of dug deeper into that phrase to see, if there was more to it. And there's this ancient Greek story about these soldiers coming back home to the ocean from war, and they had gotten lost. Most of them didn't make it, and they cried, "The sea, the sea." So.
It's like Stumbling Home is the name of the album, and then the soldiers crying the sea when they realize they're home. I sure am glad that you all are comfortable with the concept of home, because we're all stuck here.
Yeah, this has been such an interesting time of rediscovering, I think, what that means for us, because for the last 7+ years we've spent 150 plus days of the year out on the road. And so we've always sort of joked about figuring out where home is sort of like a part of our general journey in life. But it's really, I think it's changed and shifted a little bit for us this year, and also made us realize all of the different homes that we've sort of built with community across the country, and we're missing everyone really deeply this year a lot.
Yeah. Well, I think that, from what I can understand, you all have done some fairly standard things: baking bread, sewing, gardening. But Chuck, I know you started playing around with some stop animation.
Yeah. That was, if you watch our parachute video, that animated video that I did for that single, that's what the first 3 weeks of quarantine looked like for me. Literally,
it documents every minute.
Every minute I was awake looked like that video. And I'd sort of dabbled with stop motion before, but we always kind of just dabbled with a lot of things before COVID, but never had the time because we're always on the road. And so I really, the last few months have gotten into it. I made a few for this record, and it's been really fun. Kind of just learning as I go.
And I think bands have been sort of forced to become their own production companies, or everybody has been sort of nudged to become their own production companies during this time. And I think for us, we've just been trying to find inspiration in it and see sort of the ways it's helping us explore creative impulses that we might have been driving for.
Well, I kind of wondered if you were a little bit inspired by a video collaboration that you had on a previous album, because you had a video for the song Waiting that involved over 30,000 oil paintings as a part of a stop motion thing. And that seems insane, actually.
It's real funny you bring that up. We signed on with his name's Zach Johnson, the artist who made that video. He just completed the sequel to that for the Stumbling Home single, which will be out
Yeah, we're about to
few weeks.
announce that. So that, yeah, we've sort of had that endeavor.
Yeah, and it's a different concept, but it's the same sort of idea. But yes, to answer your question, I mean, man, that was such an inspiring collaboration. And when I say collaboration, it was sort of like, he did all of the work, but we kind of.
That's the best kind of collaboration.
But
and what we really love about what we loved about that collaboration and what Zach does, and also the Made Shop, which is the greater sort of creative organization that he's a part of, they do a lot of things by hand. So it's sort of, not creating like, for instance, when we created the album cover for Love We Are We Love, instead of creating like a digital design, they built a 6-foot by 6-foot mobile of letters to sort of take photos of and shape into the album cover. So we love that sort of hands-on and sort of handmade quality of
And that's
things.
how I did the parachute. Again, back to your question, I mean, I probably could have taken one photo of all these little cutout letters that I used for the animation and found a way to do it digitally, but I didn't do that. I moved each one, and I think there's a quality to it that you feel, that's different. So
Absolutely. The thing about that song is that was a period of time when you really were figuring out who you were as a band. You kind of found your voice with that record. And this new album almost feels like a sequel.
Oh, thank you.
I feel the same way.
Yeah. I think that there's something in this record that I think captures whatever the sort of spontaneous thing that happened with that album. I think we sort of tapped back into that, but then hopefully also just brought along all of the musical and life journey that we've had ever since. And I think that's one of the reasons we're feeling so incredibly proud of this album, is because it really feels like it's this, like a really good representation of our journey so far. And that time.
I think what they have in common, those two records, is that when we made Love We Are We Love, there wasn't a lot of, before that, we weren't touring, we weren't like a thing yet. It was just sort of this pure wild thing that we just put down, and there was something to that. And then the last couple of records we made after that, I think we were working as a band full time, and not, we're super proud of those records. But there was like trying to figure out what we were doing element to that. And I think this record we recorded in our own recording space and had more of that, the energy of just sort of like wild purity, like of the core of what we do, which
just like showing up for every idea and seeing what was there, like they were wild animals. Yeah.
So, anyway.
I don't think they meant to say that we were broken. They just believe that everything breaks eventually. Where were you when I needed you? Where was I? To the lighthouse.
Our guests today are the C, Chuck and Mara Costa, who I'm assuming that we're speaking to you from your home in Troy?
This is actually our studio space,
studio?
a couple blocks from our apartment in Troy.
Yeah.
So let's do your origin story. Both of your dads are musicians.
Yep.
Yeah, and my dad was a co-founder of a festival, and actually I wasn't playing music. I was going to school for musical theater and dance. I was sort of Broadway bound for a while, and then kept finding myself writing songs in the practice room in between classes, and decided that was really where my heart was. And so he told me to come down and volunteer at this festival, and I was the stage manager at the stage where Chuck was a songwriting contestant. So I was holding up a sign with his name on it, and that's how we met. And then I just wanted to sing with him after that, and he said yes.
So my understanding is that you actually sort of got together around a picnic table in a field to sort of work out sort of a Sunday morning gospel sing-along kind of thing. Right. That's really the first time that your songs, that you performed together. But I also kind of got the feeling that it was sort of like there were two things happening at the same time. It was the music thing, but you also were finding each other personally. Like you liked each other.
100%. Yeah.
And we didn't quite know what that was at that moment in time, because we were sort of both like in different sort of life situations that
I think we knew what it was. But I think the timing wasn't right. To be just, that's like the simplest way to describe it.
It felt like, oh, well, this is for like another lifetime or something. And then
luckily for us, it sort of came back around within a couple of years, and the timing was right. But yeah, that time at that picnic table, at that time I was playing solo. That was all I knew, was playing solo guitar, singer, songwriter, acoustic guitar stuff, and was really shy about, I couldn't sing harmonies. I didn't think I was capable of it. I couldn't co-write with anybody. And in that first time we sat down and we worked out an arrangement for Amazing Grace, and Mira had this really interesting ear for arrangements, and it just came really naturally, and I felt really comfortable. And it was just so quick that I felt that vibe, like you say, from the music, but all the way to just our personal connection. And it was kind of just grown it from there.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't want to get too, new agey, touchy-feely, but it's also like Mother Nature wanted to sort of heighten this thing too. Storm rolling in, wind blowing, you two singing, looking into each other's eyes. I've got a whole picture.
We laughed about it a bit because one of the songs on this album is called Rainstorm, and we looked for a while, I think, to sort of, so when we started singing together, like it was almost like right away, this storm just started rolling in, like this huge gust of wind blew through this like field where we were sitting, and it did feel like such a metaphor for just like this feeling that something was happening, and we're trying for a while, I think, to write about that in a way that didn't feel like too over the top, or just did that moment justice, and I think we're really proud of the way it came together in the song Rainstorm. It feels like what we meant to say.
won't come without leaving again. But don't we go driving, we don't have to go far. Roll down the windows and feels like a rainstorm. Thunder roar. Feels like a rainstorm. Thunder roar.
Our guests today on the bridge are the C, Chuck and Mira Costa. Just released an album, Stumbling Home, which is just a great piece of work. And, you know, we just got done listening to the live version of Rainstorm that the C were kind enough to record in their home studio for us to go along with the interview. Hearing about how you all met is like sweet and it's endearing, but the part that I really focus on is that 2-year gap. It's sort of like, were you sitting in the back of each other's heads that whole time?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
I mean, and I personally was the furthest from, I mean, in my mind, the last thing I was looking for was like diving into a life change with a person some person I just met, and yeah, it was, but it, like you said, I mean, it was just, we had some big life things in our own ways to work through first, and but that entire time was I wonder, and Mira had lost just luckily remembered my phone number, and I was about to actually I was about to pretty much give up. I was, my solo thing wasn't fulfilling me, and it wasn't sustaining me as a career. So I was kind of ready to move into like a normal day job type thing. I mean, within weeks, maybe days of me making some big life decisions like that, I got this random text from Mira out of the ether. What are you doing? And it's like, well, I'm about to quit music, but if you're willing to do it with me, I'll keep going. So.
Yeah, it was hey, I want to play music. Can I talk to you about it? So yeah, it was sort of, I think, one of those moments that we have now just sort of come to trust in the time and the years since, and that is just trying to answer everything and that happens in life in the most honest way, and then just sort of see how things sort of move into alignment. And yeah.
So let's go back even farther. Chuck, you actually found your mom's guitar, which she never learned how to play, in the attic, and that was sort of a seminal moment for you.
Yeah, that's right. I have a sister who's a couple years older than me. We're really close, and when I was in middle school, 8th or 9th grade, she was dating a guy who was like the quintessential hippie. He never wore shoes. He always came over to our house barefoot with his guitar, and and he was a really great guitar player and a really good singer. And man, I could see how how effective he was at wooing my sister. I don't know how much of a role that played, but I just connected with what he was doing, and then I just kind of, I probably asked my mom if I could get one, and she's like, oh, there might be one upstairs. Go look in the attic. And I found this Yamaha thing that was barely still together. And it really, I played a lot of instruments, like you mentioned earlier. My dad was a musician. He played jazz saxophone, and there was music in my life growing up, and I played different instruments in the school band and stuff. But the minute I sat down with an acoustic guitar and sang over some chords, I was just hooked, and I was a very introverted kid. So finding an outlet in a way I could write my feelings as opposed to trying to tell them to anybody was a really useful thing.
Now, I don't know if I should bring this up or not, but there was a dark period with a black Fender Stratocaster and some Nirvana and Metallica covers. So
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am very impressed with your research. Yeah, it's really interesting. I think about it sometimes, wonder how much that influences what I do now, you know, because I loved that. I mean, this joke comes up sometimes. When I was a sophomore, junior in high school, my two genuinely favorite bands were the Indigo Girls and Metallica. And I went to shows of both, like both of their shows, and somehow found a way to.
That feels pretty in alignment, just I think, with my spectrum of taste too, in that like they never sort of were very cohesive, and I feel like it's given us this like very broad palette to discover what we like now.
Yeah.
I love thinking of you with Metallica and the Indigo
I
Girls.
played Metallica songs on that crappy acoustic guitar. That's all I could do then I did eventually upgrade to the Strat.
So at what point did you start writing your own songs, Chuck?
It was about eighth grade, ninth grade. Yeah, I did like a coffee house at school. I remember the first time I played anything original for anybody, but I did a lot of writing. I took guitar lessons for like I don't know, maybe a couple of months, and I couldn't stand the structure. It didn't, you know, I'd never played during those 2 months because someone was telling me what to do. But when I just had the freedom of making up whatever I wanted to do, I loved it. And I wrote a lot in high school and college, but I started, around 14 years old.
You were someone, just from the way that we've talked before, you just always sort of knew that you wanted to play music.
Yeah. Yeah, whenever I'd blow out the candles on my birthday, I'd always I want to be a musician. Seriously, that's what I did.
So Mira, you actually got started a little bit earlier. Your first co-write was at the age of 5.
Yes. It was called A Monster Under My Bed, and it was a co-write with my dad. And I went to school at a Montessori school, and every year one of my friends' dads was like the music teacher there, and so we made like a CD every year with songs that we wrote and like Beatles songs and things like that. And so the Monster Under My Bed was a favorite growing up for sure.
So tell me that you still have that recorded version.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that I'm on the recording. I think it's like other kids. But we definitely there's definitely recording. And there was even a response song from the kid, or from the monster singing to the kid, that someone wrote at one point. So
there's a recording of you singing Shenandoah, like around that time, I think, right?
I think I might be like 4 or something, singing with my dad. Yeah, I loved singing always. I think I was singing before I could really make words.
So your dad's actually a writing and performing and touring musician for like 40 years. Go ahead, give him the big plug.
Yeah, my dad, his name is Ron Soul, and he, ever since Mountain Stage started, he has been part of the band there. When I was growing up, he had some amazing bands, one called the Putnam County Pickers, one called Stark Raven, and now he produces and records his own music too. He has an album called Little Movies, and he's an amazing songwriter for kids too.
So you're both songwriters. How does that work out in the band?
It's interesting. I mean, if you look at any of our records, and this is not really on purpose, but usually it ends up, there end up being a third of the songs are songs that I've started or completed, sort of the lyrics and the melody myself, a third Mira, and then a third co-written pretty equally. And there really is a spectrum. And we never really, we
consider them all co-writes, because by the time that we've brought the song to the other person in whatever form that is, whether it's one line or an entire song, we always sort of run it through our arrangement filter, and just to help with one line here or whatever. And I think that that's part of what keeps the process really fresh for us, and what keeps the songs hopefully sort of not feeling the same, is that process is always a little bit different.
Yeah, it's a super fluid process because we live and work together 24/7. Writing is just sort of a part of our life, and so we it'll be like cooking dinner and ideas will come, or it just really, or sometimes we'll have a specific idea and be like, we're going to go in the studio for an entire day and work on this idea and everything else in between. So it's really become a very organic process. And the more we do it, sort of the better we're getting, I think, at tapping into the things that are working. And again, those things are never always the same. It sort of depends on the idea.
We've been waiting, putting all our pennies in a jar. We've been hoping that we'd be exactly where we are. We've been here and out there, paying every due and every fine. We find ourselves up where it's still. In this quiet every night for 1,000 years, we could stay here till it's like we've disappeared. But we are here, we are listening. We've been wandering, tying all our keys to a kite. We've been laughing, walking with our flickering flashlights, inside, out wide, the top of every ladder that we climb. We find ourselves out where it's still. In this quiet every night for 1,000 years, we could stay here till it's like we've disappeared. We are here, we are listening. In this quiet every night for 1,000 years, we could stay here till it's like we've disappeared. We are here, we are here, we are listening.
Our guest today, the C, Chuck and Mira Costa. The new album is called Stumbling Home. And, I think one of the interesting things to me about this band is that while you are a duo, for a while, you were a quartet.
Yeah.
And my sense of it is that there was nothing wrong with the quartet, but that going back to the duo was actually sort of an artistic choice to simplify and maybe just make it something that's so directly what you want to do. Simplify, simplify, simplify.
100%.
Yeah, and I think we learned a lot from playing with the band, and I think that our goal, sort of since we started the C, was to let the duo always be at the core of everything that we do, but to not be afraid to explore wherever we were pulled. And I think that, you know, a lot of playing with, we played sort of as a 3-piece for a little while, and then this last album cycle was mostly a 4-piece. And I think we were feeling really pulled to explore more dynamics. And we were starting to play bigger festival stages and wanted, you know, to explore those things live. And then I think we really were able to work through together, and also with the band, the things about a bigger sound that really work well, and then the other parts of it that in certain moments or settings might have been stepping on just, you know, what the very essential part of what we do is. And so I think a lot of this album and wanting to be able to translate every song as a 2-piece was part of that too, sort of saying yes to all the things that we're working on all fronts, hopefully.
You know, I think it's such an interesting thing because, you know, we're all sort of stuck at home. You're speaking to us though from your home studio, which actually isn't in your home. You're a couple of blocks away. And my understanding, you did use a co-producer on this, Todd Sikafus, who's worked as an example with Andrew Bird in the past. But now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but he's like half the world away practically.
Yeah.
So was he acting as a co-producer, you know, digitally from afar, not in the same room?
Yeah. So the story there is, you know, we had for the first time, we recorded the entire album ×2. Actually, we had like double the amount of songs, all recorded and arranged here. And that was the first time we had done that. And it was very deliberate. We had sort of been building the studio.
We just wanted to learn to demo our songs, and then it turned into this sort of. So it came more of like trying to make demos and realizing, well, you know what, a lot of this is working, but we're not over the finish line with these songs yet. And so again, we teamed up. Todd, he produced our first record, and he's in Oregon. And we actually got in touch with him. It was pre-COVID, but the plan was, actually we were thinking of going there in the beginning, but it was going to be a remote project where he was basically just refining the mixes we had already made, and, you know, kind of adding, like, getting us like the 20% further we needed to get to the finish line. And he like re-recording something on upright bass and adding his sort of, you know, beautiful musicianship to a certain part of a song.
And it was a fun collaboration because even after we brought him in, there were little pieces. He's like, well, this one build needs some kind of weird sounds. Can you guys like record, what did he call them? Life sounds?
Life sounds.
And he was just like anything around town. So we walked around Troy and just recorded like the wind blowing a can or something and just random stuff. And he ended up using a bunch of that stuff
for like for percussion. Yes. Or for some percussion builds.
But it was really fun working that way. I mean, it felt, you know, this is the world we live in now. So it was cool to feel that process work so well remotely.
1, 2, 3, 2, 3. Oh, the fire is burning, the flames they grow tall down the avenue. They're calling last call, and it's almost as if we knew nothing at all. If we do, we don't remember, but we glow like stubborn embers stumbling home. And I don't mean to glamorize, it's just how it feels to feel alive, and all the things we've seen with our own eyes, suddenly in a different light. You're not the one I'm trying to fight, I'm taking you home. Oh, 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 it can't be that. Oh, simplicity. What do you think they would think if we did? Would they say we were strangers and blame us again? When we just get lost out there somewhere, wanna see what we become when we're on our way home. Oh, 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 can be that, oh, oh, symbol of sea, oh, they say it's mystery. Go ask the stars tonight, it's clear, burning so bright they might see us in the mirror here. Oh, oh, go ask the stars tonight, it's clear, burning so bright they might see us. They might see us. Oh, the fire is burning, the flames they grow tall down the avenue. They're calling, let's go, and it's almost as if we knew nothing at all. If we do, we don't remember, but we glow like stubborn embers stumbling home, stumbling home, stumbling home.
The album is called Stumbling Home, and our guests today, Chuck and Mira Casa. I did a little, I'm just going to do that one over. Our guests today on the bridge, the sea, Chuck and Mira Costa, talking to us today from Troy, New York. The new album is Stumbling Home. If you want to check out more, they are on Patreon, so you can get content from them on a really regular basis, but do check out the new album, Stumbling Home. Thanks so much. Congratulations on the record. So great to talk to you today.
Thank you so much for all the beautiful questions, John. This has just been such a joy. Thank you.